Recently, I've been catching up on Kamen Rider Revice's movie content, and today I've reached the end of my journey with the first entry in the Revice Forward series, Kamen Rider Live, and Evil, and Demons. Hello everyone, it's thomasjujube, and be sure to join the conversation in the comment section about the only V-Cinema story made for Kamen Rider Revice, and keep in mind that, as mentioned, I've already given my thoughts on plenty other movies and parts of this season, so be sure to subscribe to the channel and check out the description for some links to the other videos. For reference, in recent years, I think the V-Cinema quality has really fluctuated. We've gotten some really good ones, and then we've gotten the 01 Others series. This movie, I think, fits perfectly in the middle. It doesn't actively destroy the main characters, literally, but it also doesn't do anything super interesting with them. The setup for the movie feels incredibly generic for this season. It's about Blowbird, the new organization led by George, Daiji, and Hiromi, fighting against the local terrorist organization Acorn, which involves superpowered beings. If we go back a year when Kamen Rider Revice wasn't about Revice, it was about Phoenix, an organization led by George, Daiji, and Hiromi, fighting against the local terrorist organization Deadman's, led by superpowered beings. However, it was more interesting that time because the superpowered beings had funny clothes and used toys. I'm very conflicted about this though, because my personal preference for a V-Cinema is that it focuses exclusively on its title characters that aren't the main character of the season, and this one does that. Iki is not really involved in anything, and the title Kamen Riders are the only Kamen Riders to transform in it. And because of the cloning shenanigans using Hiromi's DNA, it really does feel like it's meant to be a Hiromi story, but not a Kagero and Daiji story. The two of them don't get any new interesting development in their relationship. There's not any big rivalry with the villains they're trying to defeat. Daiji's just working his normal 9 to 5, and today was a little bit more exciting, so it got made into a movie, I guess. It kind of feels like the end goal was that Daiji learns to trust his friends more at the end, but that was basically his whole character arc in the show, so like, yeah, you already did that, dude. Hiromi has some interesting elements to his story actually, but not really in relation to Daiji, and Kagero is just doing whatever. In the middle of the movie, he just leaves Daiji to join up with the villains because we needed to get some trailer shots of the two demons together, and that looks kind of cool. You can get people to show up and buy the movie and be like, wow, we're gonna see two demons teaming up. No, you're not. From the get-go, he's obviously faking it because he doesn't give a reason to leave. He literally just says, you know what, I feel like joining the other guys, and that's it. So you're like, yes, he's faking it. And then as soon as Daiji and Hiromi show up, he switches back to their side. So it's like, he didn't do anything. Daiji and Hiromi already found out the plans, already found out the villain's base. Kagero just made things worse because he gave them the girl, and then they didn't give the location to Daiji or whatever. I feel like maybe it would have been more interesting if they tried to make him the villain again, because these villains are really bad. Like, I was thinking, I don't think they're that bad, but they are just so boring, I have to call them bad. As I mentioned, they're just a terrorist organization with superpowers. The cloning element isn't involved until it's a twist at the end, so it doesn't really make anything more interesting. It's just there. The leader is just a man. He has powers, but then he's kidnapping children and talking about how he's trying to save the world. So it's like, are they trying to make him sympathetic? Because I'm not sympathizing with the guy who's kidnapping children. The two henchmen were actors in Ultraman, and then Ultraman Victory is also in the movie, so I guess that is just fun. The real leader, though, is this dude who was cloning Hiromi, and I do think it's kind of funny that the bad guy is just like, hey, I have Hiromi's DNA, I'm going to make another Hiromi. But then, other than that, it's just, he's in the movie, I guess. He's not the villain until it's the final fight, so there's no interesting relationship with our main characters. Even though he's been stealing Hiromi's DNA, nope, he's just a dude. And also, the monster suits are just pretty boring. Like, it's just, I guess that sums everything up. Like, they look boring, they are boring. Even Muramase's monster form is just like the generic suit, which is actually pretty disappointing. And that's because Muramase was genuinely the most interesting villain. It's funny because the Revice logic with the demons is so broken by this point, we have no idea if Hiromi could actually spawn a second demon. So the mystery was genuinely interesting to me. Was this his demon, or is this something else? I don't understand why people thought it could be Hiromi. Why would Hiromi actually do that? But whatever. Then he has a line at the end where he he says he wants to kill Hiromi so he can become the true version of him, and he even says like an evil version of the catchphrase at one point, and that is actually interesting. There's a moment where Daiji doesn't know if he can trust the Hiromi in front of him or not because there's the clone. He doesn't know if this is the real or the clone, and that is an interesting premise. But then Hiromi says he doesn't know if he can trust Daiji, and it's like, why? Is it because you think he's Kagero, the guy who changes his hair and eyes and voice and clothes every time he possesses Daiji? But imagine if that was the premise of the whole movie. We have these clones and these demons that look like people. What if the movie is like a big mystery where Daiji and Hiromi are attempting to unravel this conspiracy in Bluebird where members have been replaced by clones working for Acorn, but some of them genuinely want to live normal lives and have to grapple with the reality that they are just copies of real people. And then since Kagero is not a clone but he's a demon that just looks like Daiji and is permanently tied to Daiji, maybe he could factor into that and he wants to be free of Daiji as his own person, much like Muramasa wants to be his own person. The only scene that really uses the Hiromi clone thing in an interesting way is when Hana and Tamaki start beating up Hiromi, but they beat up the Hiromi in the Bluebird clothing because the Hiromi in dark clothes with a big sword says he's not the demon. And Hana is not only Kagero's brother-in-law and should be aware that demons like to wear the black clothes and do a bit of the goofy shenanigans, but her own demon wore black clothes and did goofy shenanigans. You know, it does sound like I really hate this movie, but I swear I don't. I think Hiromi's story is actually nice. I wouldn't have thought about the next step of his character to be him looking after an orphan girl, but hey, it works. I will admit, I was kind of confused the whole time, like, why does she have this connection to Hiromi? Why is he like so dead? Well, he's a good person. I guess it would make sense he would be dead set on helping a helpless child. But then we established that she has these powers to heal, and she's actually the one that's been restoring Hiromi to health, not the doctor guy. So I did think that was a nice way to establish a connection between the characters, but then I also think it is insane that now people just have powers in this universe. Some people just have demons, some people have angels in them, other people just have random abilities, and now I think the Revice universe is pretty messed up. It's also messed up, the movie doesn't seem to think you remember the show Kamen Rider Revice. The entire middle portion is a clip show. We montage through the entirety of Daiji's character arc, Hiromi's character arc, even in extra content. Iki and Vice's final battle is just like almost played in its entirety, and it's like, guys, I get it. Like, I saw Revice. That's actually why I'm watching this movie. Maybe I don't like this movie, actually. If almost every cool thing it does just has a corresponding thing that's dumb or boring or bad. In the beginning, we set up Hiromi can no longer transform, and Daiji gets the two side drivers split in half. Then at the end, Georgian gives them new toys to sell. We don't dwell on it for very long. Mirage Mirror is one of the coolest Kamen Rider songs ever, and it plays in this because it's the Daiji Kagero insert song. When Daiji and Hiromi are walking into a suburb, okay, Hiromi comes to terms with the fact he will have to sacrifice the girl he has come to care for, and actually I'm a hypocrite. I did like that she lived. The movie also has an opening sequence with a new song that plays over the final fight, and it's so cool. Other than the one plotline, I do think Kagero is used better here than he was in the actual show. They have a ton of creative shots that show him on screen while he's in Daiji's consciousness that isn't used with Vice or Love Cov, so it actually comes across that Kagero is not only a part of Daiji, but he's part of him differently from the other siblings. They actually talk to each other too, like they have fun banter. They didn't do that before. I like that. The fights are great, of course, because they got Koichi directing it, and you could definitely tell because there's a lot of civilian fights, and a lot of them involve legs. Muramasa swordplay isn't something I went into the movie expecting, but it was really cool. It added a lot to those civilian fight scenes. I love that Daiji and Kagero finally get to use the Revice driver since it was originally made for them, and Daiji just didn't use it in episode 1, so it's a really satisfying full circle moment to have him finally use it when Iki gives it up to him, but he doesn't really do anything to earn it. Iki's just like, here, I think you need this, actually. There's one moment where Sakura, like, kills Iki, and I thought that was funny. The Imperial Demon suit is cool. I like it. Yes, I know the jingle is the exact same. Yes, I know they could have made a jingle, but it was still really cool to get like a real upgrade for that suit. That wasn't the other thing. Marvelous, Live, and Evil are not good suits. I kept going back and forth between, do I like these? Do I not like these? I decided I don't like these after watching the movie, especially too because the Revice driver just spawns out of nowhere for Kagero, and I thought the idea was it's supposed to be maybe like Live and Evil acts as a Revice, like how they were meant to be, but he shouldn't have that belt on him. But then like Live uses the Ogin Buster in gun mode, and Kagura uses it in sword mode because they're not using the two-side driver, and it's like, it's cool. And the final battle the movie ends on in its entirety is wild, because I thought it was just originally going to be the Live and Evil versus the three guys and Hiromi versus Muramasa. Then the clone dude is like, no, I'm a new boss. Then they got knocked out of their transformation immediately, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're not doing something good. And then they transform again, and then we get a full fight. So my brain was like this the whole time, pretty much during the last 10 minutes of this movie. I have a lot to say about this movie, but I feel like if I didn't make YouTube videos on Kamen Rider Revice movies, I would have reached the end of this movie, said, yeah, that was alright, and then never think about it again. It's a serviceable Live and Evil and Demons v Cinema, and I would also say it's a nice end to the Revice continuity in general, but then they made this thing, and I don't really feel like making a video on it, so be sure to let me know if you like the movie. Go watch my previous Revice videos, subscribe to the channel, and check out my Patreon to see my future Kamen Rider videos early, and I hope to see you next time.